Thank you, Randy. Now, if you were looking at, good morning. If you were looking at your program, that's not what you saw listed in your program, right? I don't know if that confused anybody, but here's a little tip about me. Anybody who works with me is getting to know this, that I go with the flow of spirit. And so having to nail me down a few days or a few weeks before for something, sometimes by the time it actually comes to be, it doesn't quite fit that. And I wasn't feeling the song that I had scheduled to sing, and so I didn't sing it. Because I've learned to trust that, even if I don't know why. There's a reason why. So for some reason, we needed to hear that beautiful song from Randy. Yeah, thank you, Randy.
And it's okay.
And it's okay. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I just wanted to give you a heads up. That's how I work. That's how I roll, it seems. So Judy mentioned several times the good news, so we'll start with that. And I'm in a very interesting place, and I'm not sure. We're going to talk about love today. So I'm not sure I really want to talk about this a lot today. I had my test results this week, and first of all, I saw an eye specialist, and my eye is beginning to work. And the doctors are amazed, because the last time the eye specialist saw me about a month ago, it was actually getting worse, not better, which led him to the conclusion that it was permanently damaged. And now suddenly I show up in his office, I can read the visual chart, my eye muscle is moving, and my pupil is back to regular size, and he's just like, whoa, what's going on? And then I had my MRI this week, and I met with my doctor, and he said we got the best results we could have wanted, even better than he had hoped for. He had hoped to at least stabilize the tumor and stop the growth, and we actually got significant shrinkage. Yeah, so it's great. It's wonderful, and I feel strange. I feel strange, and I'll be honest with you, I guess, well, because I can't seem to not be, so you put me up here, I'm going to be honest. I'm getting so many wonderful comments, and I know people are out there happy even if they're not saying anything, and people are wanting to say, yay, you're in remission. And I'm not, and I never will be, according to the medical community. It did not go away. And so, while it's good news, it's also that point for me where what could be done has been done. And ultimately, it wasn't enough to make it go away. And so while I'm filled with joy that I'm going to stick around for a little bit longer, I don't know how long. And that's okay. So I'm having a hard time feeling joy right now, because I have that definite marker now of what's done was done. And I know, and the doctor said to me, and he knows I'm a minister, and he always harasses me. We have this very playful relationship, and he says, just sing. And he said, whether you have 1 year or 20, is there anything you would be doing differently? And it's a good question for each of us to ask ourselves. And he said, if there is, then do it now. And then let the worry go and just live. And so that's what I'm letting sink in. And I know ultimately I am overjoyed. And still a little sad. So it is good news. And it's not.
No, it is good.
It is.
Because look what happened with your eye.
Absolutely.
Look, they told you about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I am seeing clearly. So whatever time I have left, I'm starting to see clearly. I think that's an interesting symbolism that's happening with me.
Another feeling statement is I choose to see all things as you are.
And I do. And so let's talk about love, because, people are like, yay, it's a miracle. And yes, it was. And there are miracles around us every day. And I truly believe the real miracle is that I'm at peace with whatever happens, however long I get, whether it be a moment, a week, a month, a year, a decade, I am at peace. And for me, I think that is the miracle. Because that's about letting everything else go and returning to that place of the divine. T.S. Eliot, I put this in here. T.S. Eliot says, "We shall not cease from exploration, but at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated and to know it for the first time." And I believe I'm starting to return to that place and to know it for the first time. And every morning it's a first time. And so, love. In John 4, we read, "But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. The water that I shall give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." I believe he was referring to love. And then we read in 1 Corinthians, "Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends." So faith, hope, love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. And I think, when I think about God, to me, the word God is synonymous with love. So my higher power is love. My religion is love. I know we hear that referred to. And it's so interesting to me. I'm going to go off topic for a minute. It's so interesting to me putting together a talk. Because, and Randy asked me this morning, and he asked me a few days ago what I was going to be talking about, and I said I had no idea. Love, in some form. And then he asked me this morning, and I said, well, here's how it works. I've been thinking about it all week. Nothing was really in me. I was a bit distracted this week. And I sat down yesterday, and I started pulling various things and thinking various thoughts, and I write them all down. And then I go to bed and I kind of toss it up in the air and say, okay, Spirit, what do you want to stick? And I usually wake up around 3 a.m. Sometimes those thoughts are like, yes, that I definitely want to say. And sometimes there's new thoughts. And I adjust my notes. And then when I get here at 11 o'clock, by the time I speak, I usually say almost nothing that was on my sheet. But this morning, as I was passing by my bookshelf, I noticed that I had set this book out several weeks ago because I knew I was going to be speaking about love, and I hadn't thought about it. And it's The Prospering Power of Love by Catherine Ponder. And I opened it up just to take a quick little glance. And she's talking about Henry Drummond's essay on love, in which he responds to the 1 Corinthians. And he says, the final test of religion is not religiousness, but love. You will find as you look back upon your life that the moments that stand out, the moments when you have really lived, are the moments when you have done things in a spirit of love. And she goes on to talk about that just as the wellspring within us, she says, the wonderful thing to remember is that when there is a need for love, we can begin supplying it from within ourselves. Sometimes in our spiritual path, we so want to seek things outside of ourselves. And as we're finding, I'm sure you know, with faith, with peace, and now this week with love, they're all inside of us. And so the key is not to find something, it's to uncover that which is already there. And I came across this interesting thing, which I want to read to you, because I feel like you have all been on this cancer journey with me. And so I just happened to find these words this morning. Cancer has been described, so this is Catherine Ponder, Unity Minister. Cancer has been described as an anxiety disease. The emotional histories of a large percentage of those who have cancer show that in some period of their lives they felt anxious, insecure, or unloved, and that they subconsciously retained that feeling, which had often turned to bitterness and a critical state of mind, and may have even been generated hostility and hate. One authority has stated that 62% of his cancer patients told stories of loss, intense grief, depression, and despair that led up to their physical condition. As long ago as 1925, an analyst declared that after studying hundreds of cancer patients, she found most of them had suffered some difficult emotional crisis prior to the development of the disease, and that they had been unable to find effective outlets for their deep feelings and suppressed emotions. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I find it incredibly interesting. And in my own case, I would find it incredibly accurate. Yeah. And so what that makes me think of is that when we block the love, we can actually make ourselves sick, right? And I think we know that in various ways, in little ways and in really big ways. And the thing that I've been noticing these last couple days within myself, which I will be looking at, this is part of my spiritual journey in this, is that I seem to have a really difficult time expressing uninhibited joy. There's some part of me, that cynical part, that dark part, that is still wanting to block this joyous news. And I think the spiritual path is about being open to seeing those things. And I don't have any answers right now, and I know that I don't have to. But I'm going to sit in that question of, why is that? What is it in me that is still wanting to block my joy and my love, right? Because it's all kind of the same thing. It's all kind of the same thing. You know, Rumi says, direct your attention within. There is a force within that gives you life. Seek that. And Marianne Williamson says, love is the capacity to see light when darkness has begun to eclipse it. And I listened to Reverend Jean's message from last week, which was so powerful. And the thing that caught me was that she was saying there's a price to pay for peace, because she was speaking last week. And the price that we pay is that we have to be willing to let go of those things that we're holding onto that are blocking our peace. And I was thinking about that, and there's a price that we pay for love. And what we pay for love is we have to be willing to let our judgments go. Because judgment of ourselves, first and foremost, and of others, gets in the way of that divine love. Maya Angelou says, the heart is much faster and wiser than the head. With the eyes of the heart, black and white judgments disappear because the heart is balanced by a much deeper truth. And so, how do we access that? Well, in this moment, right? The more I speak, the more I'm becoming convinced that there are very few lessons that we have to teach. They all really come down to living in the moment. Because judgments, fear, all of that are never in this moment. And I've tested this. I've tested this because there are times I go way out in one direction or the other, the future or the past, and I start to freak out, And then I stop and I say to myself, am I okay right now? And the darndest answer is that it's always yes. Always. Always. There has never been a time when I say, in this moment right here, something is wrong. Wrong, right? Or not as I like it. I'm always okay. And so God, and I know I've spoken about this before, God, love, we access that here, now. It's not anywhere else. And I think for love, self-love, honoring that Christ within us is the place to start. Because I'm a firm believer that, we project and we see in others that which is unhealed in ourselves. And when we have a lot of stuff muddying up the waters inside of us, it's very hard to channel and be divine love. Because we have too many filters getting in the way. And so first and foremost, we have to take a look at our own stuff. Wounds from the past block our ability to love. Part of our spiritual growth is about clearing out our own stuff so that we can be a clear reflection of that divine love for others. Amy Grant has this song, which with beautiful lyrics, she says, "That's what love is for, to help us through it. That's what love is for. Nothing else can do it. Melt our defenses, bring us back to our senses, give us strength to try once more." Beautiful words. And when we think of love, we think of the heart, right? We don't think of the head, though we can think about love. We can think about peace, we can think about faith, but that is not the same thing as experiencing it. They always say the longest journey we'll ever take is from the head to the heart. And that's what my journey over the last many months has been doing for me. It's taking me from the head to the heart. And when we go to the heart, sometimes it's painful because we open up. This is what I've learned about life. We open up, and when we do that, we don't always get to only experience joy. When we open up, we experience all of it. And if we try to shut down any experience that we don't like, what we end up doing is shutting down all of it. Which is probably why my joy is still hard to access. Because I shut down everything for so long that I still have some releasing to do. It's a fun little tune. So I was watching this documentary, and they were talking about open-heartedness. And Mark Nepo, who I love, said, "We are the only species who can become literally the walking dead." And we become like that when we're so much in our heads that we forget our hearts. And Lao Tzu says, "I have just 3 things to teach: simplicity, patience, and compassion." Now, I love teachings because we learn from our teachers and then people learn from us. And Lao Tzu said that. And then Mark Nepo gives his impression of it. And then I'm going to give you my impression of it, right? And it's just beautiful. I love that. But Mark says that in our world, so often, fear reframes those 3 things. Simplicity, we often reframe to stupidity. Patience, fear reframes to laziness. And compassion gets reframed to sentimentality. And I thought that was very interesting as he was talking about it, and I think he's right. And he says, simplicity is our first-hand experience. It's about letting all the unnecessary stuff go. It's about not being ruled by our things, which I know Reverend Jean talked about last week as well, not needing so much stuff to be okay. It's about letting that go and really being able to touch life directly. And sometimes when we see people living like that, we think things about them, right? That they're not successful or they're not this or that. But they're embracing simplicity, and that's a beautiful thing. And it doesn't have to mean anything else. And patience, he says, unless we're bleeding or we're not breathing, there really is no urgency. I love that. I love that. And my mom and I laughed because my mom and dad and I, we had lunch yesterday, and then she said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, oh, I have so many things to do. We have Christmas stuff all over the house. I got to work on my talk for tomorrow, on and this and this and this. And I went home. I took a little nap. And then I started watching this documentary, and Maya Angelou, sorry, my face is swollen today. I'm having a hard time forming words with my lips. Maya Angelou said, we all just need to get calm. And if you don't know what to do, do nothing. And that's what I did yesterday. I didn't know what to do, so I did nothing. And that's the patience. That's the patience of waiting for Spirit to move through me. To find the thing that made me feel enthusiastic, and then I go in that direction. I'm learning we really can't plan this out. I mean, we can, but if we're too strict with our plan, maybe we actually lose out. Maybe it's more about, in this moment, I'm quiet, I'm calm, I'm still. And then when I find that thing that fires up my enthusiasm, I move in that direction. And then I wait for the next thing, for the next step. And then I move in that direction. And it becomes like a dance, a flow. And the compassion, he said, compassion is to be with. To keep company with someone in their pain. And often when we're afraid of our own pain, we so want to rush to fix theirs. And that's not love. Love is being able to be right where we are and be okay. And let everybody else be right where they are and be okay in this moment. I was reading something, and I can't remember, it was last week or something, I don't remember where it came from, but it stuck with me. They said, oftentimes in any situation, if we're experiencing difficulty, we just need a little more of something. Maybe it's a little more information. Maybe it's a little more kindness. But so often, all we need is just a little bit more love. And that has just stuck with me. And I keep thinking to myself, whenever something comes in front of me, and I don't like it, how can I bring a little more love to this? To my attitude, to my actions, to my words. Just a little bit more. And being able to, I think, be thankful for all of it. That's why I feel like I have experienced a miracle. Maybe many. But for me, the biggest miracle is I can give thanks for all of it. I actually, and this was interesting, sitting in front of the doctor, the eye doctor, and saying to him, because he said, the last time I saw you, I felt so bad to have to tell you that your eye was permanently damaged. And I watched you walk out of here, and I just felt bad. And I thought to myself, doctors like this who work with the cancer, my radiation oncologist, all of them, how many times during a day do they have to sit with a patient and tell them something that neither of them want to hear? And how difficult that job must be. And the eye doctor said to me, I am so glad to see your eye working. And he said, you're my patient of the day. And what a great way to go off to my lunch break. You know, and I thought in their shoes for a moment, that must be really hard. And I said to him, you know, I have to honestly say, this time period, and you've heard me say this before, and I truly mean it, has been one of, if not the most beautiful times of my life. And I've been, quote, fighting for my life, but I haven't been fighting for my life. I've been letting go of everything that's not my life, everything that's not me. And I said to him, you know what? And I was a little shocked to hear these words come out of my mouth. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'll bet that's the first time he's ever heard somebody say that. Somebody diagnosed with stage 4 cancer sitting in front of him saying, I wouldn't have it any other way. And I wouldn't. Because I've learned so much in this time. And I'm grateful for all of it. All of it. And when you can give thanks for it all and love without conditions, then you are free. Then we are free. And then each one of us gets to experience a miracle. Every moment that we can do that. Let's take this in a meditation. Randy's going to play for us. So go ahead and get comfortable in your chairs. And for our meditation today, I'd like to read what's written in the Unity book for Advent on love for this day, the third Sunday. Close your eyes if that feels good for you. At the heart of Jesus' ministry was love. Love for God, love for one another, love for self. When we center ourselves in love, everything changes. As I connect with the Christ presence in me, I naturally radiate more love into the world. My thoughts are loving, my words are loving, my actions are loving. I become the Christ in expression, beholding and honoring the divine in all people and all of life. Love is my natural state. I give love freely and receive love gratefully. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. And so, as we go forth this week, we remember God is love. We are love. And in the moments when we forget that, we can bring ourselves back to this moment with a breath and remember, I am love. And so it is, and so we allow it to be. Amen. And when you're ready, you